Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time this morning to listen to this short presentation on our new pricing model, the Digital Assessment Library. So we started pulling this model together about a year and a half ago, and we spent a lot of time talking with customers. We were looking to get a better handle on the various challenges that districts had in purchasing our assessments. And so with the digital systems we already have in place with Q Interactive and Q Global, if you're familiar with these systems, you know that we have licenses and renewal dates and management of sub-test usages, managing these various consumables like response booklets. With Q Global, there is the management of scoring subscriptions, the expiration dates, usernames, passwords, reporting usages for on-screen administrations. And add to that, you have kits where there are protocols and, again, more response booklets. These, all of these, in many cases, have potentially different expiration dates, which can sneak up on you. Add to this the sometimes lengthy procurement process, and this results in an ongoing year-round management responsibility. Our customers were looking to see if there was a better way. So what we were looking to do is provide a solution which accomplishes three things. First, we wanted to simplify the purchasing process. Next, we wanted to promote the move to our digital systems. And lastly, we want to grow the use of our assessments. In the conversations with customers, everyone thought that it might be a great idea if we could provide an all-for-one-price model. This would allow our customers to bring more of their focus back onto the services they provide as opposed to the logistical challenges of managing multiple systems with their individual pricing components. So we decided that a site license model for school districts based on the number of IEPs a district reports to the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services was possibly the way to move forward. One of the nice things about this number is that every district across the country reports the number of IEPs that they have in place to either the state or the federal level. So there's consistency in this model. But in addition to this, know that the use of these assessments isn't just limited to your IEPs, but instead you can use our tools for all of the assessments that your district is responsible for. This includes some of the initial referral questions, those who perhaps didn't qualify for services, kids that perhaps are homeschooled or charter schools or gifted if you test for gifted. So all of the assessments that a district is responsible for are included in the Digital Assessment Library. No longer would you have to purchase an individual license for a practitioner. So if you have 20 psychologists employed in the district, some full-time, some part-time, some on a contract basis, it doesn't matter. Pricing is based on the number of reported IEPs and not the number of practitioners or users in the system, or I should say in the systems. So when it comes to, we have a library of over 30 assessments, and we'll get to the specific tests in just a minute. A couple of the things to note here. There are no additional costs for the digital product. Keep this in mind when it comes to revisions. So when you are part of our digital assessment library, you will receive immediate access on day one to new versions or updates to our tests. It would just simply show up in your account. I think back to a few years ago when the WISC-5 was released, and specifically I'm thinking about our Q Interactive customers. Those customers who were previously using the WISC-4, the actual day of its release of the WISC-5, they had immediate access to it. They were able to run through some practice administrations, and very quickly they were able to move forward with the new version of the test. This is really one of the great benefits of a digital delivery system, is the immediate access to the new versions and really the latest and greatest of the various tools that we provide. In addition to that immediate updating component, one of the really great things about this is really it's right here. It's this predictable costs and more level spending from year to year. So basically the only change that would, or the only variable as you go from one year to the next, is the number of IEPs that you report. And so we'll show you kind of how we derived that in just a little bit. But let's talk about the tests that are available within the library. So we have ability, achievement, behavior, speech and language. Basically all of the major assessments which are used in schools are included in the library. You can see here on the left side, here are some of the new offerings which came and are coming in 2017. So the WISC-5 in Spanish, this says coming. Actually, it came over the summertime. The RAT-5 on the achievement side is coming in about a month to the digital system. The SSIS-2, the GFTA-3 in Spanish, and so on. I also want to highlight right here the KABC-2. That's one of the new things we have coming in 2018, and that's the KABC normative update, targeting next March, I believe. So the way that would work is you would continue to use your existing kit, but you would have instant and immediate access for scoring to the new norms. In addition to those tests, we've included some executive functioning tests, and we are also including some mental health measures that are listed at the bottom of this screen. These are not frequently used in schools, we recognize, and they are not impacting the cost at all, but the authors are very interested in getting some feedback from schools to see how they could potentially be more useful in a school setting. So these tests down here, the MACI and the MAPI and so on, are would be available within the library for the upcoming school year. Or for, I should say, they would be available immediately to you upon moving to this pricing model. So the two primary components to the system, to the pricing model, are Q Interactive and Q Global. So Q Interactive, so what is this? Q Interactive is really going to zero in on the administration of tests like the WISC-5, the KTEA or WIAT-3, the SELF-5. Really think of these as being your one-to-one administered tests. And these are administered using two iPads that communicate to each other through a Bluetooth channel. What's important about calling that out is you don't need an internet connection. It's not required to administer these tests. So there's a mobility aspect here that's really nice. You're carrying just two iPads as you go from potentially site to site to site, and you're able to administer these tests in an extremely engaging way. We've found over the years that many of our customers will report back indicating that the students that they test are just simply more engaged during testing. I can recall one customer specifically saying that when they would be giving these tests in paper form, that they would need to schedule periodic breaks during that hour-plus testing session because the child would just become fatigued. But after they transitioned into the Q Interactive testing option, they didn't need to schedule breaks anymore. I mean, the students were just, they were really into it. This picture up here in the upper right is an overhead shot, kind of giving you a sense a little bit about what this looks like. This would be from our WISC test. where one practitioner here on the left is holding an iPad where they would be having the scoring options, timing, the manual is essentially integrated into the system. And then you have a second iPad that functions much like the STEM book, where various stimuli and images would show up that are appropriate based upon the subtest that you're given. So that's really a 30-second summary of what Q Interactive is. Now, Q Global is this is a strictly web-based system for the administration of assessments that can be self-administered or proctored. So I wrote up here the BASC 3 and the Vineland 3. It's a scoring engine, among other things. It provides reports available on any internet-connected device. Think of it as, in many instances, a partner to a paper form or kit. But in addition to this, you have the ability to, for example, like in the BASC, you can email a link to teachers or parents or caregivers to allow them to complete the various rating scales that they need to do as part of the overall evaluation. So Q Global is web-based. It can function both for some self-administered or proctored tests, as well as the completion of various scales that students or others would need to complete. And it also functions as a robust reporting engine as well. And so that is web-based, whereas Q Interactive, think of that as really being the administration of tests on a one-to-one basis using 2 iPads. Now, from a training perspective, we recognize that transitioning to this model and digital assessment will only be as successful as the training that goes with it. And so we've, through the use of our training team and professional development team, we've developed a broad library of resources in very much a multimedia way. So we have live webinars that we conduct both on the instrument and on the system itself. We have a vast library of video tutorials. We have user guides. Our professional development team over the years has built hundreds of hours of content that would be focused on, again, both the systems themselves and the various instruments that we have. This is, it's very important for us to know that, or for you to know that we are here with you. We are your partners as you move through this. So we have a dedicated team of people to immediately, to answer phone calls, to respond to emails, to help you as you transition into this option. Another aspect of training is it's not just system-based, but you're making, or we would be making available a wide range of tools, some of which your staff may haven't used in a long time or potentially never at all. So we want to make sure that assessment training is available for you. And so again, we have lots of self-guided content and services delivered through our professional development team. So making the move to digital really helps a district on a number of different levels. One of the things we've heard from districts who have already made the move is that they appreciate the simplicity of ordering and the removal of dealing with any inventory throughout the year. Basically, the district issues a single purchase order at the beginning of the year, and that's it. If there is any staff turnover during the year, or if someone takes maternity leave, for example, it's an easy matter of just creating a new login for whomever would be coming in, and they would be good to go. One other thing to remember, too, is that this is for all of the assessments the district is responsible for. So if a district uses contract employees, all you need to do is set up a login for those contractors, and that's that. The district would retain ownership over all of the collected data. So pricing. So how did we come to a price for this model? So we spent a lot of time looking at how much it actually costs the district to administer and conduct assessments using our materials. And we looked at 13 different referral questions which are commonly seen across districts. We looked at what it takes to give a comprehensive evaluation for each of those types of referrals, and from a cost perspective, they really fell into these two buckets. Here we have the initial evaluation and the reevaluation, and what was that actual cost? And so you can see that summed up over here over the course of the first 4 years, and that's on a per evaluation basis. We looked at this from the perspective of a customer using just Pearson products, and we looked at it from the perspective of a customer using a mix of products from both Pearson and from other companies. And what we determined was that once you factored in the cost of materials and the kits, that it really came down to a cost of anywhere from between $11.50 and $14.60 per IEP. So keep in mind that this cost does not account for the library of choices that we have. It represents only the assessments utilized to assess for a specific referral and reevaluation. So I just want to pull that back just a second. I just want you to keep in mind here that now we're zeroing in just on the pricing model on a per IEP basis, but always keep in the back of your mind that this model isn't just for IEPs, it's for the broader suite of assessment services that you provide. But so this is really how we're boiling down to really how much this cost. So with a license, you would receive access to over 30 assessments available for administration, scoring, and reporting through our Q Global and Q Interactive system. You would, of course, have a license to Q Interactive and another license to Q Global with unlimited use, both in terms of the number of practitioners and the number of usages or reports that you could generate. We will provide training for you to ensure that you have a really strong and solid launch and start and ongoing support of the use of these tools. One thing that we're also very excited and something that is going to be unique to this system is the access to printable forms for rating scales. So we're looking at the Bascom, the Vineland, and others. This is only going to be available for this digital library offering. So there will be a section within your Q Global account that will have PDFs of these various forms that you can simply download and print. Very, very easy to do. And of course, inherent throughout all of this is easier procurement and reduced material management. This era of this ongoing management of different licenses for different tests expiring at different times of the year and trying to keep all these buckets filled with usages and subtests is really something that is a thing of the past with the digital library. And of course, the predictable cost and a more level spending on a year-over-year basis. So again, the only thing that would be a variable in here is the number of IEPs that are reported, either to the state or up to even potentially the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services. And this is at a cost of $15 per IEP in the district. So when here we have an example of an actual district in their spend history. So I'm going to work this really from the top down. Up here in the upper left, we can see that this is a district with 866 IEPs. And then we looked at what this district spent with Pearson across these different tests over the course of the last 7 years. And so one of the things, you can see the sum up here at the top of the screen. So you can see here, one of the things that jumps out is how variable it is. It's up here at over 30, it drops down, and one of the things that would trigger these spikes would be potentially likely a revision. Where you see these check marks indicates that the customer spent at least $1 for that specific test. So there's some WISC and WIPSI use. But when we look at the achievement side of things, there was some expense in 2009, but it's probably clear here that this customer isn't using the obviously isn't using the KTEA3 or the WIAD3 for their achievement testing. They're using something that wouldn't be from within Pearson. But they are using our speech and language tests as well as the Basque and Vineland. So here's it's really just a general profile of what a customer's spend would look like. And here it continues into a little bit in the executive functioning arena. So just to jump back here again, know that with the digital library, the district would receive access to all of these instruments, including the KTEA, the WIAD, the WACE if applicable, the CVLT, and these other executive functioning tests as well. So this district's average annual spend per IEP when it comes to just within Pearson boiled down to about $1,460 per IEP, right down here. And then we estimated what the annual spend for IEP for the achievement battery that would not be administered from within Pearson. And adding that up, so this district would be spending around $18 or almost $19 per IEP. Now, so if this customer did make a move to the IEP model, they would be spending about just under $13,000 annually, which would boil down to about a 20% savings of around $3,000 and change. In addition to that, of course, is the access to the additional assessments that the library provides, as well as the different types of assessing that go beyond what a district does for their IEPs. So this isn't necessarily going to be the case for every district, but this is just, I think, an example of really how we were looking at this and how we really came to a price that makes sense on a number of different levels. So with the IEP flat rate pricing, you receive unlimited access and use of our assessments to help you more efficiently, accurately identify those students in needs of services. All of the benefits associated with digital administration, including, I haven't even mentioned the time savings, but the accuracy associated with digital administration, scoring and reporting, student engagement. I mean, all of these are really what we're trying to embrace, and it's all integrated throughout all of these tests that we have. All for a flat, simple, predictable price year over year. No additional charges based on the number of users, tests used, or number of administrations. It's just a simple flat rate of $15 per reported IEP year to year. We're reducing the inventory management challenges and eliminating really a lot of the worry that goes into administering, or I should say managing a district's suite of assessment services, and allowing you to focus more on the task at hand, which is providing services to your students. So is unlimited access to and use of our digital library for schools right for your district? We also recognize that sometimes change can it can take a little bit of time. And so we also have some other library options. So what we've been talking about so far is really this complete library found here at the bottom. We've also developed, based again off of the feedback we've heard from various districts, about having library options that would be somewhat more limited. So a psych library for just the psychs, or a speech library. And so you can see the cost per IEP over here on the right. This can potentially be a way to transition a district, not necessarily all in one fell swoop, but potentially over a series of steps. Now down here at the bottom, we have a little bit of, well, a lot of TBDs centered around hardware options. So I do want to circle back to Q Interactive here for a moment and say that, as I mentioned earlier, Q Interactive does require the use of iPads to administer those assessments. No other device is going to work. So Android or Windows tablets, no. It has to be iPads. So we would definitely love to, if you don't already have iPads, we would definitely love to engage you in figuring out a way that would make sense for you to procure those iPads. We can look into a couple of different options, potentially breaking the cost of them over the course of a couple of years, and a few other things. So please, we would love to kind of help. Again, one of the things we talked about is smoothing the costs year over year and making that more predictable, and that can also then subsequently apply to the cost of iPads as well. Let me just put up my contact information here, james.a.hankey. Make sure the middle initial is dropped in there, otherwise it goes to another person within the company. Or you can always reach me by phone. And what I'd like to do now is, in our remaining time, I want to take a look at some of the questions that have come up. So give me just a moment. And let's see. Okay. Okay, so one of the questions that came in was, I work for a special education cooperative, and I work which serves 10 school corporations and have a little over 2,000 IEPs annually. We have 7 psychs, 5 diagnosticians, and about 13 SLPs. This model doesn't seem to be set up for our situation. What would be the option available for us? Well, I'm not sure that it actually, I wouldn't jump to the conclusion that it wouldn't be an option for you. It sounds like that's a pretty heavy caseload, and I think we could probably make an argument that your time savings in terms of being a more efficient test administrator through our digital models might actually make a lot of sense for you. But with my contact information put up right here, please send me a note, and I'd love to talk about that further with you. Another question is, do we still need to buy protocols for the KTEA response booklets or WISC booklets? So once you make the transition into the system, we'll have a setup meeting where you can kind of let us know what your expected volume of response booklets would be, and we can send those out for you at no additional cost minus shipping. So yeah, the response booklets, or those sort of ongoing consumables, are built into the price. It's just that shipping would be a component of that expense. When you say you can print Basque and Vineland, does that mean that the district would not need to buy these protocols but could print them? Yes, that is exactly what I mean. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Let's see. Is it also unlimited users in the flat rate cost? Yes, it is. What if your district had purchased a 3-year scoring subscription that has another year or 2 left? Will any credit be given? The answer to that question is also yes. We recognize that some of you may, for example, already be using Q Interactive or Q Global. We will be able to, if you want to make the move to the digital library, we would definitely be able to work with you to ensure that that transition happens smoothly and that there are no sort of unused subscriptions. So yes, we would be able to essentially credit those, any existing dollars that are already applied to those scoring subscriptions, absolutely. Our district already has Q Interactive and Q Global with thousands of subtests. How can we move over in a cost-effective manner? Yes, as I just said, we can definitely work with you and really get a good number of where you are at any given date and time, and then we can use that to transition into the digital library model. Okay, so we're just reached the end of our time here. One other question is, do you provide estimates of cost before switching over? Absolutely. What we'd love to do here is, the example that we provided is that district model with 866 IEPs is really just one example. Each of your districts that each one of you represents obviously has a different story to tell, and so we can work with you to really boil it down to what the actual cost would be, and we'd love to engage you in that conversation. That would be great. So please feel free to reach out to me via email. I will also follow up with you with an email later today, again with my contact information, and let's start the conversation. So I want to thank you for your time and attention today. I hope you found this helpful, and we hope to see you online down the road. Take care, everyone.